The courtroom was already buzzing when my son, Marcus Reed, struggled through the double doors on his cane. The sound hit me first. Not words, murmurs. Low. Persistent. Cruel in their quiet way. They followed him like shadows clinging to his back, whispers of pity mixed with judgment, the kind that pretends to be sympathy but reeks of superiority. I could feel eyes sliding over his uneven steps, measuring him, deciding his worth before a single word had been spoken. I stayed one step behind him. My heels clicked softly against the marble floor, steady, measured. My face remained calm, unreadable. I had learned long ago that real power never rushes to announce itself. Marcus's grip tightened on his cane as he moved forward. I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he held his breath as if bracing for impact. Courtrooms are supposed to be places of justice, but today, they felt more like arenas. Then I heard it. A soft laugh. Not loud enough to be called disrespectful. Not sharp enough to draw attention. Just enough to wound. My daughter-in-law, Tanya Brooks Reed, leaned toward her mother and whispered, her voice carrying just far enough to reach the front rows. "Look at him. He can barely stand. How does a man like that expect custody?" The words landed like glass. Marcus's shoulders stiffened instantly. His head dipped a fraction of an inch. He heard it. Of course he did. I wanted to reach for him. To shield him. But I knew this wasn't the moment for comfort. This was the moment for truth. Because what she didn't expect, what none of them expected, was me. When I stepped fully into the courtroom light, something shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was undeniable. I saw it before I heard it. Judge Calvin Hargrove froze mid-motion, the gavel hovering just inches above the bench as if time itself had paused to watch his reaction. His eyes lifted from the file in front of him, passed over Marcus, skimmed the attorneys, then stopped. On me. The change in his face was subtle, but I recognized it instantly. I had seen it decades ago on the faces of judges, opposing counsel, and corporate executives who suddenly realized they were no longer in control. Recognition doesn't arrive with noise. It creeps in. His brow tightened, not with suspicion, but memory. The kind that opens doors you thought were sealed shut forever. His posture shifted, straightening slowly, as if instinct had taken over before his mind could catch up. He leaned forward. "Ms. Naomi Reed," he said quietly, almost cautiously. "I didn't know you were involved in this case." The words didn't echo. They settled. The courtroom went unnaturally still, like a held breath stretched too long. The murmurs evaporated. Even the air felt heavier, charged with curiosity. I felt Tanya stiffen. Her confident smile collapsed as if someone had reached inside her and turned off a switch. She glanced at her lawyer, then back at me, confusion creeping into her eyes. Her posture faltered, just for a second. But that second was enough. They see the gray hair first. The modest suit. The careful walk of an older woman who doesn't demand attention. What they don't see is the past folded neatly inside my silence. 30 years ago, people in Atlanta's legal circles didn't whisper my name, they respected it. Courtrooms shifted when I stood. Deals collapsed when I spoke. I wasn't loud. I wasn't theatrical. I was precise. I was Naomi Carter Reed, civil litigation attorney. The woman corporations avoided. The one abusive institutions tried, and failed, to outlast. I dismantled powerful men with calm voices and unshakable facts. Until I walked away. Not because I lost my edge. But because life demanded something more important. Marcus was 9 years old when his father left. 9 is an age where children still believe stability is permanent. Where they assume parents belong together the way walls belong to a house. That night shattered that belief forever. It happened after dinner. The plates were still warm in the sink when his father stood up, wiped his mouth slowly, and said my name as if he were announcing a weather change. "I'm leaving." No apology. No explanation that made sense. Just a sentence that rearranged our lives. I remember the suitcase already waiting by the door. That detail haunted me more than anything else. He hadn't decided that night. He had planned it. Marcus stood frozen in the hallway, barefoot, his backpack still slung over one shoulder. He had been doing homework at the table. Multiplication tables. I remember because later I found the page folded, unfinished. "Is Dad coming back?" he asked. I knelt down so we were eye to eye. His lashes were wet, but he hadn't cried yet. He was still waiting for permission to hope. "I don't know," I said. "But listen to me carefully, you are not the one being left." That was the night I stopped being just a lawyer. I became a shield. I worked longer hours. Took fewer cases. Learned how to stretch groceries and patience. I packed lunches with handwritten notes. I attended school events straight from court, still wearing heels and exhaustion. At night, when Marcus slept, I sat at the kitchen table and let the silence hurt. When he asked why his father chose to leave, I didn't poison him with bitterness. "Some people choose themselves over responsibility," I said. "You don't have to." He believed me. That belief shaped the man he became, and later, the pain he endured. Marcus grew into the kind of man who never raised his voice but carried strength in his consistency. He studied engineering because he liked knowing things would hold. Bridges. Buildings. Load limits. Safety margins. He trusted structures more than people. When he told me about Tanya, he was smiling in a way I hadn't seen since childhood. "She listens, Mom," he said. "She sees me." I met her soon after. She was polished, charming, full of ambition. She spoke about community programs and future plans with ease. She knew how to make people feel included, seen. I wanted to trust her. I did trust her. At first. They married young. Too young, I thought, but love often ignores caution. Marcus bought the house in Decatur using his savings and a loan he'd taken before marriage. I mentioned asset protection gently, carefully. He laughed. "We're a team." That word meant everything to him. The accident came on an ordinary day. A site inspection. A steel beam. One failure in a chain of responsibility that landed entirely on his body. When I saw him in the hospital, tubes everywhere, eyes unfocused, I felt something inside me crack, not loudly, but deeply. The doctors were careful with their words. "He'll walk," they said. Just not the way he used to. Permanence hovered in every pause. Marcus tried to smile. "I'll adapt," he said. I believed him. I just didn't know who wouldn't. Tanya stayed, at first. She sat beside his bed for visitors. Held his hand when cameras were near. Posted pictures online with captions about strength, resilience, and love. But love doesn't disappear loudly. It erodes. At home, she grew distant. Shorter replies. Longer silences. Her patience thinned until every request felt like an insult. One night, Marcus asked her for help getting into bed. She sighed. Looked away. I didn't sign up to be a nurse. The words stayed in the room long after she left it. Marcus didn't argue. Didn't protest. He nodded as if he agreed. That scared me more than anger ever could. 6 months later, divorce papers arrived. She wanted the house. Half of everything. And full custody of Jalen. Her lawyer called Marcus physically incapable. Suggested his disability made him unfit. Used words like liability and burden. I watched my son absorb those words slowly, like poison disguised as fact. That was the night I unlocked my old briefcase. Courtrooms have a rhythm. That day, the rhythm was wrong. Tanya's attorney spoke first, confident, smooth, dismantling Marcus without ever looking at him. He spoke as if my son were already defeated. Marcus stared at the table. I stood. Your Honor, I said, I request permission to represent my son. Gasps spread like ripples. Tanya turned sharply. You're not practicing anymore. My license is active, I replied. I simply chose silence, for a while. Judge Hargrove studied me carefully. I saw recognition settle in his eyes, not nostalgia, but respect. Permission granted. I sat beside Marcus. He squeezed my hand under the table. For the first time since the accident, he wasn't alone. I submitted the deed first. Clear. Undeniable. Purchased before marriage. Then the USB. The recording played. Tanya's voice filled the courtroom, cold, instructive. Jalen, listen carefully. Then the child's voice. But I love Daddy. The silence that followed felt sacred. Fragile. Jalen took the stand. His feet didn't touch the floor. I want to live with my dad, he said. He helps me with homework. He listens. Grandma makes pancakes. Marcus covered his face. No one laughed. No one breathed. Truth doesn't need embellishment. The verdict was final. Full custody to Marcus. Supervised visitation to Tanya. House remains with my son. No spousal support. The gavel struck. Marcus broke down, not from weakness, but release. That night, at home, he said quietly. Mom. I didn't know you were that powerful. I smiled. I didn't want you to need to know. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it watches. And when the moment comes, it stands, opens an old briefcase, and reminds the world that justice never forgets those who once served it with truth.